So we're going to talk about this World Autism Day. We'll be on the line shortly to Masenyeki Mthethwa, parent of a child with autism, and Jenna White, a clinical director, the Star Academy and board certified behavior analyst, in the studio with us. As mentioned in that report, autism, a very complex neurobehavioral condition that includes impairments in social interaction. But to find out just a little bit more on what the symptoms are, what the markers are, we Masenyeki Mthethwa on the line with us. She's a parent. You have a 5-year-old, I believe, who was diagnosed at 2 years old with autism. Tell us more about that story.
Hi, good day. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
So tell us about your experience.
It was horrible to have the word autism in our family. You would think you read it on the magazines. You never thought it would be in your house. You do see your child, there's something wrong, but you never think, no, autism in my house, no.
But when you say autism in my house, no, what did you know about autism then? Were you aware about the disorder? Were you familiar with what the symptoms are?
Yes, I was. I was aware of the disorder, and that was actually my biggest fear of having kids and say, the worst thing that could happen is autism or Down syndrome. You know, and most parents, we say 10 toes, 10 fingers, you know, the checklist. And then autism is not one of those.
What have been your challenges so far?
It was school, mainly. To get him into a school, the area that we lived in, we didn't have schools around. So we actually had to move because of him so that he can find a better life and all that. So our life had to change.
Okay.
Because of him, yeah.
Jenna, just looking at South Africa, how prevalent is ASD and how much do South Africans actually know about it? Because judging from the voice notes that we receive from our viewers and some of the tweets, a lot of them are saying, please educate us about this. We don't know much about it.
So in terms of prevalence, there aren't reliable statistics available for South Africa specifically, but the Center for Disease Control in the United States has put that figure at 1 in 59 children being on the autism spectrum. So it is a prevalent disorder.
What are the causes? Do we know?
Yes, so there's a genetic predisposition and it's triggered by environmental factors.
Such as?
So these can be, there's pollutants in our air, our water. Our environment is, generally speaking, becoming more toxic.
And when we talk about this autism spectrum disorder, our reporter spoke about the nonverbal kind. What else is included in that definition?
I think it's important to understand that autism is a spectrum disorder, and so there are a set of symptoms, and those include certain skill deficits, and they also include certain behavioral excesses. But an individual can be anywhere along that spectrum. So even when it comes to being verbal or non-verbal, we have children who are what you would call completely non-verbal, not able to speak at all. We have children who are fully verbal, who are able to speak very well. And we have children everywhere in between. For example, a child who has speech but will mostly echo what you say instead of having their own speech to reciprocate a conversation with you.
So the self-expression is lacking. So let's come back to you and hear what you have to say, Masenyeki, on the cost of having to have your child treated, and what are his or her symptoms that you would have had to spend money on to ensure that there's medication and he or she deals with the autism.
It's a he. His name is Taone. Yes, the fees are very high, especially in the private sector, because on the public sector, the schools are very limited. Especially if, for instance, I'm from Limpopo. I don't even know a single school in Limpopo that deals with autism. So, and the previous school that he was in, it was a public sector, so the number was quite high. So even the intervention of a therapist was very limited. So I had to move him to a private sector. The fees are ridiculous, especially the therapies. And with our medical aids, they don't accommodate autism as one of the 21 listed chronic that government listed for medical aids. And it's really pathetic that within autism, a child can have symptoms of epilepsy, a whole lot of things within autism, but the diagnosis is autism, but the government will not list it as part of the chronic. So you have to pay for all those therapists.
I'm curious, Masenyeki, how other children interacted with Downer. Did they treat him as different? Did he feel like he was treated different? Obviously, it was probably more difficult for him to even express his feelings or frustrations. But I'm just trying to gauge how young children in schools or even teachers are aware of the disorder. Yeah,
the school, he's in care, so the school, they deal with that. It's beautiful. He relates well. They understand. It's the best place for him to be. So they treat him very well there.
The previous school?
Only on the outside. Previous school, I don't even know what to go with.
Okay, all right.
Because, because it's a starting point. It was an eye-opening for me and for people who don't have the finances to take their kids to private sector. It's a good start.
All right. Thank you very much, Masenyeki. Masenyeki Mthethwa is a parent of a child with autism. Jenna White, still with us. So I just want to look at society in general. I was quite struck when Masenyeki was saying that, I was thinking, oh no, I don't want a child with autism. Do people realize that children or adults can't function with autism?
I think some people do realize that, but it is a big diagnosis. It is a big battle that lays ahead if you get an autism diagnosis, especially if your child is on the more severe end of the spectrum. So I can empathize with those feelings of oh no and those feelings of dread, but I think an important message to spread on World Autism Awareness Day, and one of our primary messages at Star Academy, is that there is hope. There is so much that can be done. A lot of parents are still being told goodbye and good luck. Make provisions for your child because this is a lifelong disorder and there's not much hope. And that's absolutely not true. There's a lot of hope. Our children can make significant gains.
What helps them do that, though? Is it the facilities that are available, the medical treatment, also conscientized caregivers? What makes it better?
There are two main things. One is what we call biomedical treatment, and that has got to do with diet and medication, and that's because a lot of children with autism have impaired immune systems, have brain inflammation and such. So they need to be well from a health perspective, and then they also need the intervention which is called applied behavior analysis, and that intervention is the only research-based method of intervention for children on the autism spectrum. The US Surgeon General declared it a medical necessity for children on the autism spectrum. So when Masenyeki was talking about us needing funding, absolutely true. Applied behavior analysis is funded for autism in 49 American states, and that's how widely recognized this method is. So we just need the same kind of progress here. But there's a lot of awareness, a lot more awareness now, so we're moving in the right direction.
So you were saying when you were studying, you got involved with autism via a volunteer program. Have there been any major strides? I know the Gauteng Education MEC had committed to improving the number of available schools that can house children with autism and give them the necessary infrastructure and facilities. Just gauging from when you started up to now, has there been visible, tangible improvements in dealing with autism?
I've been in this field, as I mentioned, about 10 years, and I haven't seen significant improvement in the infrastructure available, especially in the public sector. I appreciate the commitment that's been made towards making improvements in that area, but I think it will take time, and it has yet to materialize fully. So, as Masenyeki said, it's still mostly people in the private sector that are getting the best access to the right treatment interventions. Star Academy does, however, try to reach out to people in other areas. We have we offer remote services in various provinces. We have the Tembisa outreach program, and then any parent who comes to us and that can't afford our fees, we see what we can do. Perhaps we can train somebody in your home in our method, or, as I said, we make a plan to bring as much of that intervention that's needed to those families as possible.
Thank you so much for joining us, sharing your insights and educating us. Jenna White is a clinical director, the Star Academy and board certified behavior analyst. Earlier on, we were speaking to Masenyeki Mthethwa, who is a parent with a child with autism.